Hello, my name is Hebby, not really, and Fnaf is now 10 years old. Do you feel the back pain yet? In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this epic Freddy Fazbear plushie. Spoilers, that's who I'm going to make. Just kidding, it's not really spoilers. You know I'm making every Fnaf character into a plush because you can read the title. Hopefully by now you're literate. Anyways, you might be like, why would you do such a horrible task? Why would anyone do that to themselves ever? I have problems. Problems with this thing. I know, I'm a judgmental harpy. That thing aside, there are some legitimately awesome Fnaf plushies out there and many brands working on creating a diverse range of merch. Which leads me to my second problem, which is that they're so expensive. I know they're not actually that expensive to buy maybe one or two, but if you wanted every character, you'd be out probably more than $1,000. Quite a lot of these plushies had a limited time of manufacturing and distribution, and if you can't recognise my accent, I am Australian. I think the boats with the Fnaf merch were eaten by the Kraken at sea because we never got half of the plushies released here in any reasonable quantity. Also, I've never seen a Hot Topic or a Walmart, and as such, of course, have never been in there. So yeah, I'll be willing to dedicate probably more than 1,000 hours of my life to doing this project rather than pay the extortionate prices that the out-of-manufacturing Fnaf merch is at. Anyways, my third issue is that, it's not like I actually could have the ability to purchase a plushie of every single character in a consistent art style. Some of them don't exist. There's a weird aversion to making certain characters into merch.
Skip. But when does this game get good?
I don't know why Funko chose out of all of the available characters to do Balloon Boy and not even attempt any of the Wizards at all in an official capacity, but there you go. I am so sorry to all my Balloon Boy lovers out there. You keep shining bright, little stars. But he is inarguably the worst character. Maybe. The bottom line is, I love Fnaf and I want my own plushie army of the characters, the patterns of which I will share for free for you guys to make your very own. And that, to me at least, necessitates creating my own Fnaf plushie style. I love these fat plush bricks that appear as in-universe merch for Freddy's Pizzaria, which the Sanshi and even the Funko plushies, to a lesser extent, are modelled after. But I also absolutely love the Hex brand plushies. They're a more character-style plush of these guys. I shall be making something kind of in between these two things. You know, something that I personally like. Because I guess this is fan art, so I'm tailoring it to my own exact specifications. A couple of years ago, when I was first figuring out how to use a sewing machine, I saw some awesome videos by fellow YouTuber Bazabazao of their hypothetical Fnaf plushie designs. And their plushie passion encouraged me to continue on with what I was already doing, which was making some Fnaf plushies for myself. And now I think I'm ready to try my own sort of take on a similar challenge. This is like, what if I was put in charge of my own Fnaf franchise spin-off? First of all, I actually don't like pizza. I'm sorry, I've tried to like it. And I am scared of robots. But this is what I would stock the prize counter shelves with though. The rules are as follows. Rule 1. I will be trying my best to stay accurate to the character in a simplified form, taking into account the available merch of a character and more. But even with simplification, I might have to make some concessions, since fabric colors can be limited and I don't have the resources of a huge corporation. Rule 2. I will be including the animatronic characters in game-by-game order for all the mainline Fnaf games, which includes the first game, the one which caused the eternal timeline argument, the one which doesn't really have Freddy in it, the extreme child endangerment one, Freddy Fazbear Shiny Edition, Freddy Fazbear Pectoral Muscle Observation Simulator, and its DLC, Feel Bad for Roxanne Wolf Simulator, and even that one that nobody really talks about. But not the freaky weird things in it, unless someone gets down on the ground and begs me. Because there's 100 bajillion characters, I think I will introduce a similar mechanism to how I've been doing my Wings of Fire plushie challenge, and that is to allow people to vote in the comments for absolutely uselessly obscure characters, like characters from the books, the graphic novels, characters who never really appear in canon, movie-style versions of existing characters, one-off pop-up annoyances, And some of the characters who exist technically but are horribly ugly, and I'm sure nobody has ever wanted one for Christmas. And that leads me to a note I have, which is that each one of these plushies usually takes me between 15 and 30 hours of work, sometimes more, and if I made 2 in a week, it's more than a full-time job. And I already have a job, and also I'm a science student. I have homework. And on top of that, I am making plushies for another challenge of making all the dragons from Wings of Fire the book series. So yeah, I can't make them all at once, but when I do, I'll be sure to put the patterns up on my Patreon. They'll be for free, but for all of the people who can or have chucked me a few dollars, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support, and more plushies are always on the way. Let's begin this epic journey to make Freddy Frabber the main man on all the YouTube thumbnails. I think Freddy is kind of a difficult character to make into a plushie. Like, honestly, you'd think the fact of him just being a brown bear with a top hat and a bow tie would be easier, but the simplicity is just overwhelming. There's obviously a lot of official merchandise for Freddy, and they all sort of have the same design problem. I mean, it's not a design problem, it's just what Freddy looks like when you don't make an exactly realistic depiction of how he appears in-game. I'm taking inspiration from the YouTube's plushies and how cute they are. I'm taking the wide snoutedness of the Sanchi plushies and the Funko ones, and some of the general structure of the Hex plushies to get my final design. A Freddy which is to my exact liking. And now let's go! The first step for you is probably downloading this pattern and printing it out on some A4 paper. But the first step for me is actually making a clay model of the shape of the head and sticking layers of masking tape down onto it. And then drawing the seam lines required to make that 3D masking tape shell lay flat and be actually craftable. And then we are tracing it out onto the material. Side note, this pattern was made with some homework for a class that wasn't mine, which I mistakenly walked into one day, but yours will not have earth science stuff written on it. For my material recommendation, this is 5mm palm minky. It's similar to the material used for the Sanchi plushies, but fluffier, bringing it sort of close to the fur used for the Hex plush. But if that's too expensive and hard to find, I have to get it online, I would recommend polar fleece. Ideally, when making a plush, you want a material that is both thick so that it hides seams, a little bit stretchy so that it forgives hand stitching needle holes and doesn't rip apart, and is soft. So whatever material you find which is like that would also suit. Anyways, now time for the sewing part. Start stabbing at the forehead and move backwards, sewing up all the darts, which are those little triangle snippy bits. They're very important for making the shape of the head round, since we're going to turn a flat object into a 3D one. After the last dart, stop. Leave a small gap, 2 centimeters approximately, which is close to an inch for the Americans in the audience, and then sew up to the chin. The gap is important, don't fill it by accident. Then, with the same thread, put on the jaw by sewing both halves of the jaw pieces together and anchoring it down to the very tip of the chin. Then, once the jaw halves are together and attached, sew the bottom of the jaw into the curve of the head. Seal up that dart, once again. Every time you encounter one of these, definitely do that, or you will have holes. Stop at the edge of the cheek area. It naturally wants to fit into the shape of that part of the head pattern, and do the same on the other side. Before we attach the rest, cut away the overhang of fabric if there is any. This way the snout will fit perfectly into these corners. Then it's time for the aforementioned snout. One piece at a time, sew the nose fabric down to the jaw. The little side of the dart is first against the start of the jaw half. Sew the dart in the nose closed as well. This dart gives the nose that puffed out appearance compared to the bottom jaw. The edge of the muzzle should fit perfectly into the point where the jaw meets the head. If it doesn't, that's what the trimming of a little slice off the rest of the head is for. Then, once both halves are on, sew down the middle of the snout to seal that hole up, and you should have a fully complete inside-out head shape with only one opening, which is the gap we left at the chin after the first dart. It's coming back to being useful, although you may need to enlarge this hole with your brain surgery tools in order to invert the head. And then we begin stuffing him with dead children. If you don't have any of those, you can use branded polyfill, pillow insides, or other hobby stuffing. Make sure to stuff the nose area firmly and plump up those cheeks. Once it's stuffed, it's gonna look like you did something horribly wrong and it's gonna fail. But actually, that's because you need to thread sculpt your victim. Thread sculpting is a life-saving technique where you pass a needle and thread repeatedly through the area to sort of cinch in its waist like a Victorian-era corset. You're gonna want to do this to flatten the muzzle out at the sort of bridge of the nose area, passing the needle through the nose and then out the back of the head around where we have the hole. And do the same to the area under where the eyes will be too. This will simultaneously pull the chin up as well and shape that properly. Then what you want to do is put the eyes on, and as a preliminary step, pull the eye area closer to one another in order to sort of sink the eye sockets down into the plushie, and avoid them bulging out. Sorry, some of the official plushies, you're very cute, but you do kind of look like those squeeze-em pencil toppers. Think about how the plushie will look from other angles as you sew down the eyes. You want the eyes to be obscured from some directions slightly by the nose and look like they're inside of the head a bit rather than on top of it. And once the whites of the eyes are down, my secret technique is to pass the needle once more through the eye itself. Very gory and brutal eye surgery. Don't watch this whilst you're having dinner. And pull the pupils together through the insides of the plushie until they look more cross-eyed than before. Before you put the facial features all the way down, it's time to insert a magnet right up into the top of Freddy's skull by squishing it painstakingly slowly through the hole under his chin. Man, they go through such an ugly phase. But you should trust it. Oh, and as a note, Freddy's eyebrows are a very particular shape. They start narrow and go wider, and I'm really surprised none of the official plushies have done that. The in-game plush looks like that. Somewhat of a nitpick, I suppose, but that's how our Freddy's eyebrows are gonna look. For the nose, sew up the dart in the middle. This will make the nose more 3D. But what also makes the nose 3D is stuffing it. Although it's shallow, so you will sew around it up to 80% of the way. For this I use a ladder stitch. There's 3 main stitches you should learn, and if you want me to go more in depth, tell me and I will. Anyways, once we're nearly done but not quite, grab a ball of stuffing and shove it straight up Freddy's nostril. Then sew the last part of the nose down. Then I like to bring my black thread to the bottom of the nose and just put in a stitch at the nose jaw seam for the little puckered out nya-snoz. And then it's time for the ears, which are half done on the machine. These plushies are made 85% by hand. With a machine, it's not easier to sew, but it's faster for flat objects. But you can make it 100% by hand, and it's probably easier to do it that way, to be quite honest, if you're a beginner, because it's slower and you'll be double checking more. Lightly stuff the ears and then attach the inner ear color change and sew that down. I slightly fold the ears to the desired shape at this point. Oh, and a note about the head magnet. I get the sewable kind of magnet with this plastic case around, which you pass the needle through, because you will need to secure it with a few stitches through the top of the head. This will avoid it shifting over time. You can also get a donut or a horseshoe-shaped magnet for this purpose. And then you should finish putting the ears down. For the final detail before Freddy's fashionable top hat, I'm getting some black fabric paint to spot on his little whisker markings. I'm not sure if brown bears actually have this in real life. It doesn't really look like it, but Freddy does. Always use a paint specifically for fabric here because it's soft and flexible. Acrylic paint will chip off. And now the top hat, which is my favorite part. And we'll also take our plush from Grumpy Bear's severed head to Freddy Fazbear's severed head. Now we sew around the brim of the hat, which is a double layer thick, and cut around the outline. If you do this by hand, you won't have as big of a seam allowance. Then you snip a hole directly in the center through only one layer of the fabric. This is to turn the hat brim right side out, but also it's for inserting the other half of our magnet setup into. I don't sew the magnet down into it yet because we're going to make the hat walls. The rest of the hat meat is done by first sewing up the straight line of the sides and then taking the circular top of the hat piece and fitting it into the void space of the hat side pieces. There has to be a better name for that. But I'm not a hat shop. I'm the fabric store kind of haberdashery. That's what that word means in case anyone didn't know. But now we're stuffing our hat as full as we can go and then pressing it down to our hat brim and sewing it on, as well as passing the thread through our magnet too. And then once that's done, we're ready to smack that down. Epic detachable hat. Now we're ready to do the body. Oh no, wait. I forgot something extremely crucial. When you click on Freddy's nose, it squeaks. Which is critically important. But yeah, don't do it in this order. Put it in before you put the nose on the head, or you will suffer as I have suffered. I had to put it in the chin since I can no longer get to the nose, but that doesn't matter too much because you've got to grab the chin to squeak the nose anyway. Hearing that sound makes it all worth it. And now the body. It's fairly simple. It's comprised of these two pieces. And you simply begin at the top or the neck and just keep going. Round bit for the butt and then done and ready to turn right side out. But now it's time for the all-important stuffing phase. I try to make a little nest for the weighted pellets at the bottom of the plushie with soft stuffing. The weighted beads give a critical heftiness to this chonky bear, and the stuffing down low allows for our needle to pass through the body a lot easier. And we're going to need to do that since the legs are going to be sewn on there, and we want to leave Freddy with his legs. Anyways, after adding our preference of weighted beads, stuff the last little bit up to the neck quite firmly because it's time to attach his big old head. Oh, and pin down the placement of the lighter chest color. I put this on before the limbs since it's easier to attach at this phase, but it does sort of mean he looks like this meme. Sew at least the head down before moving on to the limbs, which are made either entirely by hand or you can do the long straight part of the legs on the machine. Leave a gap at the top of the leg where the thigh is, as well as stop sewing at the tip of the toe and somewhere at the heel area. Leave a gap in both of these places so that we can insert the bottom of the foot into this spot. I do this by hand because it's a lot easier to control when you sew by hand. That's just me though. Also make sure to seal up the heel area as well, and you leave an opening at the top of the leg so that you can turn this the right side out. And now for the arms, which are extremely simple. Just sew around this shape. It's pretty, you'll figure it out. Anyways, time to stuff these. The arms are simply filled with fluff. They need to be a little lighter because they're going to be higher up on the body. But the legs, stuff the area where the toes will be since those will be shaped with embroidery thread and we need to pass a needle through there. But in the calf, fill that with weighted pellets if you have them, since it really helps keep the plushie from overbalancing backwards. And also gives them a nice satisfying smack when you throw them down. Now to reverse amputate this plushie. Pin all the limbs down before sewing so you can see how they will sit on the final product. And then go in with your needle and thread and Frankenstein that thing together, starting with the legs. Or at least, I start with the legs. Oh, also, attach the chest down for finals here. I like the way that the You Choose plushies are sitting forward with their arms positioned like a dog, but I'm going for something a little less animal-y. So the legs are a bit like the You Choose sitting design, but the arms are to the side like the Hex brand plushies. The Senshi and Funko plush just have Marshmallow Man limbs. No judgment. Anyways, once the limbs are down, great, Freddy can be grooving now. Time for his toes. Freddy technically has 3 toes, but he has 4 fingers. I had never counted them before this moment, so I didn't think it was weird, but now I have and I do. So we're normalizing that situation and giving him 4 toes and fingers. There's also a seam straight down the center of the foot, so it's a lot harder to have a non-even number of digits on the feet like that, because the seam sort of messes everything up. So 4 it is. And now it's time for his final piece of clothing. And you make it by sewing around the hole shape and then snipping off the seam allowance and making a hole through one layer of the fabric on the back and using that hole to invert the piece. Then just snip off a small ribbon of black fabric to act as the knot in the bow. Pre-sew that little thing into its folded shape and also hold the knot on and then attach it to Freddy's chest, neck area. He sort of doesn't have a neck in-game or in any of his other plushie appearances. So do what you must. And then Freddy's ready! Wait, no. That's it, I'm ripping Freddy's legs off. I changed their position and gave him slightly thicker embroidery thread sculpted toes, fingers, paws, whatever Fredster has. And now he's done. Here's the speed video. This is actually a second Freddy because I made two and filmed one vertically. If you saw the video on Instagram or TikTok, it was this one. And I made them slightly different colours because this one is the colour of all the other Freddy plushies and this one is a darker colour like the You Choose plushies. And also like Freddy himself, if you look at him in the lighting conditions of the game or in the first movie. And that leads me to a note about the plushie colours. It's sometimes a bit hard to find very specific fabrics. I don't have the resources of a manufacturing company. I can dye fabric a bit, but I am saving that for some of the future characters who need it more. Additionally, it's a little hard to figure out precisely what colour the Fnaf animatronics are because they're a bit dirty and they're textured. Some parts are lighter and some parts are darker. You can make him whatever colour you prefer. Or you can make him whatever colour scheme this one is. Okay, so thank you very much for watching until the end. Congratulations if you've been following along in this video with an actual sewing needle. Enjoy your Freddy plushie. Click that button and smash subscribe. But not really because your touchscreen surface is dirtier than a toilet seat and also delicate, so no smashing. Click it in a civilized manner at your leisure, should you be inclined. Shout out to my patrons. This one's a bit of a curveball for you. I haven't really done anything FNAF related in a while. Although if you were here from the beginning, you would have seen my very first video, which was about making Withered Bonnie. That'll be back up in time. I mean, not that exact video, my audio quality was terrible. It was quite literally recorded just like on my iPad and edited in iMovie.
Only 100 prize tickets for an off-coloured toy Bonnie. Go away. I don't care. Go away. But you could see this obscene gesture. If we had finger tracking, you could see me making an obscene gesture at you. Go away. Shh. Be quiet. First order of business? Getting this out of my life. The light of the candle will give me Bonnie's gone. There you are, you sneaky little bastard. Oh, Ooh! Very nice. You're still there? No, you're not. Are you there? I can't freaking see. Not in the closet. Oh, okay, there he is. This is grainy footage. Chica? Is that Chica? Am I gonna lose the first night because I can't see the screen very well? And okay, there you are. What's that? I wonder if I can turn the camera off and just freeball it. No. Okay. Turn that off. Do they ever go back to the stage? Mind your business. Do you mind? You're gone. Okay, you're not gone. Never mind. And Chica, goodbye. What's on all that? You're there. You're not there? Or are you there? You're not there, goodbye. Chica, go away. Mind your business. 3%. Okay, did you go? Okay, that's... Alright. I lost Bonnie. I lost Bonnie some time ago. Where did he go? Okay, you're back to being annoying, and you're still there. I can see your outline. Just go away. Are you gone? Hey, you actually did what I asked. Yippee! We beat the first night. Yay! I can't eat this. Another one. Whee! Die! I love you, Chica. Guess who's next?